It's the 5150 breakdown. You know we don't mess around. We're coming straight to your town to bring you the 5150 breakdown. So get your mind right. Get your mind right. Get your mind right. Get your mind right.
And get ready for the 5150 breakdown.
Hi, I'm Shawna Charles, PhD candidate.
And I'm Dr. Kimberly Grace, and this is the 5150 breakdown.
On today's show, Dr. Grace and I are going to talk to you about dependent personality disorder and how it affects us and our community.
So are you ready for the 5150 breakdown?
I know I am. What about you?
Let's go. So when you hear the words dependent personality disorder, what do you think about, Shawna?
I think about someone who's codependent, who's needy, who's clingy, who always has to have a boyfriend or always has to have a girlfriend. What about you, Dr. Grace?
I really think about, somebody's self-worth or their whole self-esteem is wrapped up in another person. That song, like, I Can't Breathe Without You, that R. Kelly song, or Can't Breathe Again, or Won't Breathe Again, that Tony Braxton song, that really kind of hits home for me.
For that Tupac, What You Won't Do for Love, or like Cat Williams says, it's self-esteem.
So that's what I think about. So let's take a look at what professionals, how they classify dependent personality disorder. And to do that, we're going to use the manual. This is called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health or Mental Disorders, and this is the 4th edition, and it's a revised version. There's actually going to be a 5th edition coming out soon, probably about later this year. And so it's what's used by psychiatrists, psychologists, any other therapists that's working with people and working with their mental health. So according to this, we're going to look at the different criteria that one must meet in order to be classified as having dependent personality disorder. So let's look. What does it say? It says a pervasive and excessive need to be taken care of that leads to submissive and clinging, Shawna said that earlier, behavior and fears of separation beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, as indicated by 5 or more of the following. So, number 1, has difficulty making everyday decisions without an excessive amount of advice or reassurance from others. 2 is, needs others to assume responsibility for most major areas of his or her life. 3 says, has difficulty expressing disagreement with others because of the fear of loss of support or approval. Says, no, do not include realistic fears of retribution. The next one says, has difficulty initiating projects or doing things on his or her own because of lack of self-confidence and judgment or abilities rather than a lack of motivation or energy. The next one says, goes to excessive lengths to obtain nutrients or support from others, to the point of volunteering to do things that are unpleasant. Number 6 says, feels uncomfortable or helpless when alone because of exaggerated fear of being unable to care for himself or herself. Urgently seeks another relationship as a source of care and support when a close relationship ends. And the last one says, is unrealistically preoccupied with fears of being left to take care of himself or herself.
And dependent personality disorder, like I said, I know I've had those girlfriends that are, needy, and we're always like, well, why is she so needy? Well, why does she always have to call him? Or why does she always have to text him? Or you pick up the phone and hey, girl, how's your day? And you can hear that drag, and it's kind of like, okay, what's wrong today? Oh, well, so-and-so hasn't called, and so-and-so hasn't called. And you're just kind of like, okay, so when you start seeing those things and your friends start categorizing you as clingy or needy, that should kind of wake something up inside of you to say, hey, like, do a self-check. Am I really dependent on this person, or am I utilizing this person as, a friend or a significant other, kind of understanding those boundaries? Mm-hmm. What do you think, Dr. Grace?
And then with this, we're talking about dependent personality disorder. So it's not just, I got into this one relationship and I'm just head over heels for this person and I feel like I always want to be around them. This is more of a pervasive thing that's happening. So it's more than just your partner at the time. It's really over a long period of time people have noticed, or you have noticed, that your whole worth or being is wrapped up into someone else, and you can't really survive without that.
Because I know I've had that girlfriend that is in relationship after relationship after relationship after relationship, and those are some of the patterns of behavior that, you know, you need to look for, whether it's in your friends, because I genuinely care about my friends. So if I see these type of behaviors, I'm the type of person that is going to address it. But I was talking to one of my girlfriends the other day who was struggling with one of her friends kind of being the outside person looking at the relationship. And when I kind of asked her, you know, well, what are you going to do about that? She told me she doesn't want to deal with matters of the heart. And this is a type of disorder where when you're dealing with your friends, that is a matter of the heart. So there's a lot of feelings and emotions and things that go along with this. So it's not really easy to deal with, but once it's dealt with and the healing process takes place, it leads for so much more change and feeling better and better confidence and better self-worth, because people notice when your confidence is down.
Mm-hmm.
You agree, Dr. Grace?
I definitely agree. And with this, you know, a lot of times we sweep things under the rug. It's like, I don't want to deal with that. I have so much going on. I have work. I might have children. I have just a million things going on with family. So who has the time to deal with these emotions? You know, that lady says, ain't nobody got time for that. That's how I feel sometimes. But it's important to take the time to work on self. Shawna and I are here to kind of bring awareness to some of these things that may be going on in your life or in someone that you know, or a family member's life. And we want to take the time to kind of talk about it. Let's have a discussion about it. Let's see what we all can do so that we can grow. And so make sure that if you are seeing some of these things, you seek professional help, or you can go to a church and talk to a priest or a pastor. Just start the conversation. It all starts with a conversation, and that's why we want to bring our conversation to you guys.
And we know it's not easy. There's a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions that dependent personality drives. I mean, everyone manifests it differently. Some people cry, some people stop eating, some people throw up, some people withdraw, because it's almost like that person is a drug. I mean, we know, and we've seen people go through cold turkey, we watch movies, you know, and it's hard. Like, we're not saying that this journey is easy by any means, but it's worth it. You know, and there's going to be a lot of emotions involved and just dealing with yourself. But in that, learning about yourself and understanding yourself and looking out for these same patterns of behavior, these same type of people that you're addicted to, the amount of awareness that you get from it, it's priceless. So again, Dr. Grace and I are here just to bring an awareness, no judgment here. And the only reason that I can talk to you about, the only reason why I feel like I can talk to you about this is because I've been there and I know what it's like. And it actually took me seeking professional help to understand myself and what I was going through. So it's no judgment here in character or if you're going through this, and no one's saying that it's going to stop immediately, but even if you just address it and become aware with it and understand that it's something going on inside of you, then that's even the first step.
Mm-hmm. And this doesn't mean that, you know, you're not normal, right? People have this taboo about, oh my goodness, I'm going to go see a psychologist. Does that mean I'm not normal? That's not the case. You know, right now, I work out through, you know, different issues in my head right now. You know, I'm this doctor, I have this PhD and all of that. I still work through things, and I think it's a continuous process. It's a part of growing as a person, as a human being. There's this continual process that we need to have and focus on ourselves so that we can be a better person for the people around us and ourselves.
But the difference is the people who go and actually get some help or realize that this is kind of what's going on. And like Dr. Grace said, you are not alone in this. There are so many people who go through this, never address it, and there are a lot of people who go through it and address it. And what we find happening through our experience is that when you don't address it, this stuff doesn't go away. It just continuously follows you through different relationships, through different aspects of your life. And a lot of times it's a hindrance, or it blocks you from growing.
Mm-hmm. I was talking to Shawna, I was asking Shawna, like, what's an example? What's a person that we can kind of look at that kind of is an example of dependent personality disorder and what it can lead to if it's not addressed? And so she was saying Tina Turner, the movie, the way it's captured in the movie. That's an example of dependent personality disorder and what it can lead to, because in that movie, she was a strong woman, but it was really wrapped up and tied into her partner. Her self-worth was really tied up into her partner, and it wasn't until later when she found religion. I believe that was the catalyst for her, that where she could work on self and begin to grow out of those things that was hindering her before. So for me, that was a powerful example of someone who was in the spotlight, but that was still dealing with some issues.
Yeah, some codependency. You know, and it was a dual relationship though. When you look at it, he was dependent on her as well as she was dependent on him. And as you see, a lot of times when you have these dependencies, they don't oftentimes they possibly don't stop at just being dependent on someone. They can lead to other things. You know, then you become dependent on marijuana, or you become dependent on some type of drug. So just alcohol. Well, yeah. So just kind of understanding that you even have that possibility, you want to be aware of those things so you start noticing your own behaviors. We hope that this was helpful for you, just kind of explaining to you how dependent personality disorder is diagnosed, kind of what to look for in yourself or even in your friends if you want to help them with understanding dependent personality disorder, because a lot of times the terms needy and codependent and clingy are used so loosely that, they're not really put to a criteria or an actual disorder. And now we're not saying you're going to have this disorder forever, but there are periods in its life where it may show and manifest itself. So we hope today that this was helpful for you, and that if you have any questions, feel free to contact us
at 5150breakdown@gmail.com.
Or you can visit our Facebook at 5150 Breakdown. So now we're going to move on to our 5 and 5. And our 5 and 5 is where people write in and send us questions, and we answer 5 questions in 5 minutes. You ready?
Ready. This question comes from Whittier, California. It says, why do some women come onto a man, then shut him down when asked out for a date, then complain to their girlfriends that they cannot get a date and they are lonely?
This is actually pretty common. I think we see this a lot. And my take on it is that a lot of times it's an internal competition for yourself. Sometimes it's that stretch. You want to see if you can really get that guy. And kind of once you achieve that, it's kind of like, you know what, I've won. I've got it. So kind of on to the next. And then the complaining part, I think oftentimes you have to ask yourself, were you really after that guy for the right reasons? Was it just the competitive part of you, or was it really something about him that you liked and you were really intrigued about? And often I think you'll find it may have just been that competitive side of you, because I believe if you really like that guy, once you got him, then you'd be interested in moving forward and possibly doing something more. So we have another question, and this one comes from Hawthorne, California, Dr. Grace. What negative psychological effects or side effects does the media have on teenage girls as it pertains to self-perception? Specifically, when you see a lot of sexy women, violence among women, etc., what are the ways that parents can combat those effects?
I think that the media can have a negative effect on one's psychological well-being. Just because there's a lot of violence that's going on, there's a lot of sex that happens, because they say sex sells, and so you see a lot of that. And with teenagers, you're very impressionable at that age, and so I think it's important for parents to make sure they sit down and take the time to talk to their teens about the values that they should have, the morals that they should have, and really support them and guide them through this particular time, because it's very delicate. So I think as a parent, you can kind of combat what they are seeing on TV if you sit them down and have a conversation about the do's and don'ts that you want them to incorporate into their life. Our next question comes from Cincinnati, Ohio, and the question is, why is it that African Americans do not tend to seek out professional help when it comes to mental health services?
I think this is a touchy one. I think we are, seeing African Americans seek out more mental health services than they did previously. But my dissertation is actually looking at African American men and psychological services. And although I thought there were going to be a lot of things such as culture and emotions and attitude, we really didn't find a difference, or those really weren't contributing factors as to why they do or don't. But my personal belief is I think a lot of us tend to use, like you said previously, pastors and priests because of the taboo or the stigma that's associated with mental health. But what I did find in my research is that a lot of the African American males that I polled actually have sought mental health or has known someone who has previously sought mental health. But for the African American community, a lot of our community is built and our foundation is found on religion. So people do tend to lean more on prayer and lean more on their pastors or their priests and God as opposed to seeking professional help.
And also, to add with that, something that really helps the process with mental health is trust. And from just a historical standpoint, the system, was not necessarily trustworthy when it came to African Americans and what they were getting out of those services. And so I think there was a time where, it just wasn't trustworthy. It wasn't safe to kind of disclose what was happening with you internally. And so I think as we are progressing, that should change, and hopefully more African Americans will seek out mental health services, and Shawna is saying that she's finding that they are.
So our next question comes from New York, New York. And the question is, how do you know when you have the right therapist for you?
Okay, that's a good question, because I went to therapy sessions, and I felt like I could really trust my therapist. I felt like they could, or she could, contain everything that I was going through. So she wasn't going to fall apart and start crying and get overly anxious because I tell her some stuff because, I'm kind of crazy sometimes. But I felt like she could kind of hold it for me, and that I could, take a load off of my shoulders, basically. And so for me, it was really about trust. It was also that she was knowledgeable. I felt like she knew what she was talking about. And then not only knowledgeable, but she was able to relate to me in a way that I understood. And we were different. She was not African American, and so we had different cultures, but I still felt like she understood me.
For me, it's intuitive. It has to be someone that just intuitively I trust. Intuitively I am open to talking about things that are painful and hurtful for me. So I'm more of a gut instinct person. So for me, it's just kind of knowing in my gut that, I actually like this person.
So our last question comes from Los Angeles, California. And the question is, how can we be a part of the 5150 Breakdown show? That's an easy question.
That's a great question, actually.
It is. So to be a part of our 5150 Breakdown show, all you have to do is email us a question at 5150breakdown@gmail.com. Or go to our Facebook page, and you can ask us a question there.
And our Facebook page is also 5150 Breakdown.
I'm Dr. Kimberly Grace.
And I'm Shawna Charles. And this was the 5150 Breakdown.
It's the 5150 Breakdown. We don't mess around. We're coming straight to your town to bring you the 5150 Breakdown. So get your mind right. Get your mind right, get your mind right, get your mind right, and get ready for the 5150 Breakdown.